Welcome to Maureen.
That's for Dad. We got in trouble for that too. When he went to Alaska, he was librarian up there and announced the game on Army and Navy, Army and the Irish, the Notre Dame game, and he pulled for the Irish, and the generals in charge found out about that, so they took him off the radio for a while because he wasn't really to be trusted with announcing for the Army. But anyway, it is a great joy to be with you here this evening. I am Maureen Egan Buhrmaster, and I'm going to turn on the light because that was better. And I thank everyone for being here this evening. Many of you, most of you, probably don't know about Bill Egan. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about him because 5 days ago, if you were still with us, he would be 103 years old. Our history here in the Hills-Ballston Lake School District matters. My father's sports brought out in him traits that were already there. Very early in his life, he showed an ability to compete. He showed fairness, good sportsmanship, and integrity. These same traits have endured in our VHBL sports programs to this day. The elements of his character and his sports competition were those Bill applied as a father, husband, and public servant in his community over his 87.5 years. For just a minute, let's quiet our minds and try to imagine what the village of Ballston Lake was like more than 100 years ago when my father was born. Our school district was yet to be established. There were few cars on the road. Main Street of Ballston Lake was still a dirt road. It was dirt. We imagine ourselves at the intersection of the railroad crossing of Charles Egan's Country Store, Markham Bakery, the Ballston Lake Hotel, my grandfather owned, Bill's father. This was the center of the village where people gathered and exchanged gossip and stories. My father recalled this his earliest memory that he ever shared with me. Ballston Lake, isolated from the greater world, learned that the conflict of the Great War, World War I, had ended. Folks gathered, they talked, and the youngest boys had an idea. This called for a parade. So Bill Egan, the Sardo brothers, Albert and Pete, and others, maybe Joe Santarcangelo and the Kabornik brothers, gathered the only musical instruments they had. They got their mother's pots and pans and some wooden spoons and proceeded to march down Main Street in celebration. This was my father's first team. The boys here in Ballston Lake shared a set of values and a small town kinship that my father held dear to his heart his whole life. What were Bill's athletic endeavors? Well, he could swim. With his sisters, Anita and Dorothy, he swam the length of Ballston Lake. I think Ms. Maureen Reno, would row the boat for them as they swam. This was a comfort to his mother because Uncle Charlie, who ran the country store, would send him out onto the frozen lake to cut ice. The ice was stored and then delivered by my father in the warmer months. Bill Egan could box. Father Daniel Hogan got the heavyweight champions Gene Tunney and Jack Dempsey to come to Ballston Lake and coach these young men. This was far before Bing Crosby's movie made in 1938 called Boys Town. This was in the mid-20s, so well before Hollywood had that idea. And not to put too fine a point on it, but my father's footwork that he learned in the boxing ring probably helped him years later as a suitor when he took to the dance floor, because to watch my parents dance was magic. My father was an outstanding basketball player. His team won the league championship. One competition was particularly fierce. The Lakers, as they were called then, played a hard-fought game. He said, "Maureen, the other team should have won. They were the better players, but we won. We had more heart." Heart. That lesson of giving your all for your friends and your team was something Spartans have carried forward in their most triumphant moments to this day. My father's favorite sport, however, was baseball. Oh, he loved baseball. He admired players like Babe Ruth, and later on players like Stan Musial. I hope some of you know those names. And Miss Rice, who was going to be recognized in a few minutes, did my father a great favor. She was his teacher in 4th grade. My father was a lefty, and Miss Rice insisted he learn to write with his right hand. Okay. He became an ambidextrous sportsman, a player who could play at home plate as a switch hitter and ran fast. He followed baseball his entire life. Only now do I realize how talented he was, because he was very humble and shared very few of his stories with us. My father left Ballston Lake during World War II when he served in the Pacific Theater stationed in the Aleutians. He was terribly colorblind, but if you've ever seen pictures or photos of Adak Island, color was entirely missing. Adak is all gravel and mountains in shades of gray and white, perfect for Bill. On Adak, he met Dashiell Hammett, the author of the Thin Man series, and Bernard Kell, later the CBS News reporter. Those kinds of encounters added color of another dimension to his tour of duty during World War II. In 1946, Bill returned home to marry a beautiful, bright woman, my mother, Mary Joan Coons. Mother worked as a librarian for our school district for more than 40 years. They had 4 daughters, and 1 great-granddaughter now attends Stephen Elementary School. Excuse me. My father was president of the Ballston Lake Volunteer Fire Department. He was in politics. Politics then was kinder, gentler endeavor than it is today. He ran for Congress, and Bill supported his family as a well-respected realtor. Could somebody bring me a glass of water? It's allergy season. Sorry. Thank you. Now I'm going to read you 2 letters that kind of pull together who Bill Egan was. Excuse me. This letter has an interesting reference. Many of my father left Ballston Lake to attend Ithaca College. At Ithaca College at the time, you could major in music or physical education. That was the 2 things that they were offered, that's all. And his dream was to play baseball for Ithaca, and maybe eventually play for the big leagues after college. Ithaca holds the record for the most consecutive wins of any college baseball team to this day in the nation. My father's teammates included Eddie Sawyer and Carlton Wood, who went on to play for the Yankees. His coach was Bucky Freeman, who is in the American College Baseball Coach Hall of Fame. This letter that I'm about to read to you was written more than 61 years after my father left Ithaca College. His baseball dream was over, but his friendships still endured. This is entitled to the Ithaca College Quarterly, in memoriam. I was deeply saddened to learn that my good friend Clifford Dubois, class of 36, died 1 year ago in March. Clifford saw more baseball ability in me than I had realized myself, having played in several freshman ball games against Cornell, in which I went 3 for 4. Cliff suggested that I try out for the varsity, even though they had already played several games. I did accept Cliff's suggestion. I looked out for the varsity. Bucky Freeman, the famous coach, who else, put me in as a pinch hitter, and I proceeded to hit a 3-bagger. I was forced to slide into third base, and in so doing, I hit a mud puddle that lay wide and deep between me and the base. The jacket I was wearing became completely covered with mud. Unfortunately, it was not my own jacket. Because it was still pretty and cool in April, a transfer student offered to lend me his own jacket. His name was Irving Schlossberg, class of 35. Naturally, when he saw his beautiful jacket, he was flabbergasted. Perhaps at this late date, I could offer my apologies to him. That seems to have been the end of my college baseball saga. You see, I was a class of 38 dropout for financial reasons. I still think very fondly of my time in Ithaca. William W. Egan, class of 38, Ballston Lake, New York. 61 years after he left that school, we still remembered his teammates. The final letter, which I can't read all of, but was written by a man named Paul Pennock, a very successful lawyer in New York City, whose father was Judge John Pennock of the State Supreme Court. My father had 4 daughters. He really should have had at least 1 son, in those days anyways. Some of the fondest memories of my life, Paul writes, as a kid include my dad's best friend, Bill Egan. We only called him Bill, never Mr. Egan, as one might suppose, or Uncle Bill, as he was closer to my brothers and me than any of our actual uncles, just Bill. He was a special man in so many regards, but all the more so because we understood, even at a young age, that he was once a terrific ball player. This wasn't from Bill, who would only give a little bit of a smile about his past baseball exploits, but from my dad, the judge, for thus for us it was gospel. But any doubts at the time were dispelled during the many occasions that Bill would shag balls to us. I can remember being 9 or 10 years old down in a grassy area near Ballston Lake, being amazed at how he could hit whatever type of hit he wanted. A short pop-up here, a long fly there. It was obvious, even to a youngster, that this man had spent a lot of time around baseball. I feel like I spent dozens of summer nights fighting the mosquitoes and trying to field Bill's shags. We, Paul and his two brothers, went to Cooperstown 6 years in a row from 1969 to 1974. We always stood back and waited for Bill to point out the otherwise unrecognizable old-time Hall of Famers who were at the famous Cooperstown Hotel for their own induction or a friend's induction. As he pointed them out, we would run up and get their autograph, which was easy because until Bill pointed them out, no one in the hotel lobby knew who the hell they were. Players like Lefty Grove and Lefty Gomez and several others. We would also get a jump on the new ones because Bill would spot them too, such as Bob Feller, Early Wynn, and Stan Musial, before anyone else recognized them. Remember, this was a time when there was literally no way to look up someone's current photo. If you didn't know what they looked like or weren't sure, that was it. They were walking right by you. No double checking on your iPhone. So whenever I take out the remarkable signed baseball that I still have, I think of the great Bill, cluing us in on some of the best autographs of all time. My younger brother, who was 6 at the time, politely asked Bill one evening to take down the newspaper he was holding on his head as an umbrella in the light rain, as the little 6-year-old said, "That's just too embarrassing." When I last saw Bill, not long before he passed, he brought that memory up as he always did over the years and chuckled just a little bit. He was a great little chuckler. He chuckled out loud, he always did. I think until today, that may have been his favorite Hall of Fame related event. I think this would supersede that because I'm sure he'd be stunned to know that he's being honored. Bill would, at our pleading, take the baseball, flip it from his fingertips to his bicep, flex his bicep, which would pop the ball very quickly into his hand and repeat, again and again without error. Now that was some Bill baseball magic right there. In closing, Bill Egan was so much more than his memorable 3-baggers. He was a home run. And his heart and his home were always here in Ballston Lake. Thank you, everybody.